Why did I write it down? In order to remember, of course, but exactly what was it I wanted to remember? How much of it actually happened? Did any of it? Why do I keep a notebook at all? The impulse to write things down is a compulsive one, inexplicable to those who do not share it, useful only accidentally, only secondarily, in the way that any compulsion tries to justify itself. The point of my keeping a notebook has never been, nor is it now, to have an accurate factual record of what I have been doing or thinking. That would be a different impulse entirely. An instinct for reality which I sometimes envy but do not possess. I sometimes delude myself about why I keep a notebook. Imagine that some thrifty virtue derives from my preserving everything observed. See enough and write it down, I tell myself, and then some morning, when the world seems drained of wonder, some day when I'm only going through the motions of doing what I'm supposed to do, on that bankrupt morning I will simply open my notebook and there it will all be, a forgotten account with accumulated interest. We're talking about something private, about bits of the mind string too short to use, an indiscriminate and erratic assemblage with meaning only for its maker. I think we are well advised to keep on nodding terms with the people we used to be, whether we find them attractive company or not. Otherwise they turn up unannounced and surprise us, come hammering on the mind's door at 4 a.m. of a bad night and demand to know who deserted them, who betrayed them, who's going to make amends. We forget all too soon the things we thought we could never forget. We forget the loves and the betrayals alike, forget what we whispered and what we screamed, forget who we were. It is a good idea, then, to keep in touch, and I suppose that keeping in touch is what notebooks are all about. And we are all on our own when it comes to keeping those lines open to ourselves. Your notebook will never help me, nor mine you. I think I disagree with Joan Didion when she says our notebooks can't help each other. Maybe the contents of mine would be a little irrelevant and probably illegible to you, but I do wonder if the notebooks that I choose to keep and how I choose to keep them might be interesting or helpful to you. At the very least, I can just show you some pretty stationery. We're going to start from large to small. This notebook is the biggest in my stack, and it's also arguably the most important one. This Midori MD blank notebook is where I do my morning pages. If you're unfamiliar with morning pages, it is a concept coined by Julia Cameron, who wrote the book The Artist's Way. Julia proposes that as artists, we should start our days with stream of consciousness writing. In the book, she says that we should do 3 pages of writing, but this book is pretty big and my handwriting is pretty tight. To fill 3 full pages usually takes me 45 minutes to an hour, which I just don't have that much time every day. So something I've started doing is setting a timer for 15 minutes and writing as much as I can in that time period. And sometimes if I have more time and I feel like I need to write more, I'll just keep going. I like this notebook because the paper is smooth. It has a threaded binding, which means that it opens flat. You don't have to wrestle with the book. It's relatively inexpensive at around $15. The paper is thin but not too thin, and it has enough pages to make it feel like a good journal. My journal is to words as my sketchbook is to images. I need a place where I feel comfortable exploring, experimenting, playing, doodling, cataloging symbols and images, experiences, and memories that I use in my work as a visual artist. I recently finished this red Royal Talons art creation sketchbook. It took me just about a year to fill this sketchbook, and I'll be filming a more comprehensive tour soon. I do have some older videos flipping through some past sketchbooks if you'd like to see some work I've made in the past. I just started this dandelion yellow moleskine sketchbook. These sketchbooks are my favorite, although they feel a bit like a splurge to me, which sometimes results in me not using them as freely as I might use the $11 art creation sketchbooks. The art series sketchbooks have significantly thicker paper than the blank standard moleskine notebooks. I think these are perfect for watercolor or gouache, which I use a lot of in my sketchbooks. The paper holds up nicely as long as you don't use too much water. It takes me a while to feel at home in a new sketchbook. I find that the first half goes by kind of slowly, almost dragging along. And by the time I get to the second half of the book, I feel so comfortable doing whatever it is that I might want to do that the pages fill up relatively quickly. I always have to remind myself that while the book is pretty on its own, it will be even prettier filled with sketches. I relate to Joan Didion when she says she doesn't have an instinct towards reality, but she does envy people who do have it. I am not a captain's log type journaler, but I do need to keep myself on track, and that's where these planners come in. This is a Hobonichi Techo. It functions as a planner but has a full page for every single day, and I made a video about how I used it last year. I really enjoyed my time in this notebook, using it every single day for the majority of the year. I did go a couple weeks without it and stopped around October. I found that between my journal, my sketchbook, and my wall calendar, I just didn't really need this extra page a day kind of thing. Which is why this year I switched to the weeks, which is also from Hobonichi. Instead of daily pages, there's one full spread for each week of the year. In the monthly section, I'm continuing my tradition inspired by Jamie Green of doing a doodle every single day. I have a big wall calendar, so I don't really need this section to keep on track for actual events that are occurring throughout the month. In red pen on the left side, I'm just writing appointments or things that I have to do on specific times, and the right side is for to-do lists, thoughts, ideas, things to buy, things to do, and little notes about my week for memory keeping. I have this pencil board, which is also from Hobonichi. It just serves as a rigid place to write on because the pages are so thin. I also use it as a holding space for a sticky note when I have more chaotic weeks with a ton more to-do list things. I'm really excited to try out this book, and I'll definitely let you know at the end of 2024 how I liked using it. Next, we have my little pocket notebooks. It's really important to me that these books fit in the palm of my hand because I really do take them everywhere. This pocket moleskine is the same exact kind as the yellow notebook, just smaller. I use this sketchbook when I'm traveling or if I want to make more finished paintings or drawings while I'm on a hike or a adventure of some kind. I like that the rigid cover keeps it protected in my bag or backpack, and you might be able to tell that I've spilled things on it, dropped it on the ground, lost it for months at a time, and it is generally just very well loved. I find that taking this pocket sketchbook with me helps prevent me from looking at my phone in situations where I'm waiting for my coffee, waiting for the band to play, or driving in the car for long periods of time. Now that I rent an art studio outside of my house, I don't have as many supplies at home, but this sketchbook and a little travel watercolor palette with some gouache functions as my art studio inside my pocket. It's also nice, in my opinion, to have something smaller when your big sketchbook feels intimidating. When all I have to do is fill a page the size of the palm of my hand, I can let go of expectations of having to make a masterpiece and squeeze art making into little cracks of time. The most raw form of notebook that I have are these pocketbooks from Field Notes. They feel more like a folded up piece of paper in your pocket, somewhere to scribble down fleeting thoughts, ideas that come to you while you're mid-daydream in the passenger seat of the car, rambling thoughts that won't leave you alone on a solo hike, doodles done in doctor's offices, boring baseball games, and breweries. The book on the left is finished, and its spine barely survived the 3 months that we spent together. These notebooks are durable, but part of their charm is their disposability. They're very discreet when you pull them out in public. It doesn't seem like you're writing in a sketchbook. It just feels like a little notepad that you carry around with you. Our notebooks and how we choose to keep them can be an incredibly personal thing. I've kept a sketchbook since elementary school and a journal since I could write. The kinds of books that I prefer and how I choose to use them is a constantly evolving process. Like anything in life, it's never going to stay the same, and I don't believe there is a uniform system that works for every single person and their lifestyle. This is just what's working for me in this period of my life in 2024, and I'm excited to see how things might evolve and change. I'd really love to hear from you. What are your favorite notebooks? Do you like this kind of video? If you're new here, my name is Chris. I go by Little Tiny Egg everywhere on the internet. I'm a professional artist and illustrator, and I make vlogs and some educational type content here on my YouTube channel. If you'd like to keep up with the things that I do on a daily basis and see the inside of my sketchbook, you might want to head over to my Instagram. Thanks for watching this video. Happy New Year, and I'll talk to you soon.